Hi, everyone. This is the latest installment of the Michael and Rusty Show. Tonight, we're going to talk about the recent events in the CFL and the NFL. And I have Michael Willoughby with me. Hello, Michael.
Hey, Uncle Russ.
So tonight, we're going to talk about the state of the CFL, the situation in the West and the East. Let's start with the West. Not much has changed, of course, at the top, because even though Winnipeg did lose to Hamilton last week, Winnipeg is cruising with a 12-2 record. They're well ahead of BC in second place. Winnipeg being 12-2, of course, and BC being 9-3. So there's a big gap, and it's likely that Winnipeg will continue to solidify their status as arguably the best team in the league. So Calgary is third place. They lost to BC in the recent game in overtime by 2 points, 31-29. And this sets up a rematch this weekend in which BC can ensure themselves of a playoff spot with a victory. And it also sets up a continuing race with Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is at 12 points. Their record right now is at 6-8. And they're in a situation where right now they are ahead of Hamilton in the crossover. But Hamilton helped to shore up that difference by beating Winnipeg significantly last weekend, which we'll talk about. Michael, tell me about your thoughts on the recent games in Hamilton. You went to the Labor Day game, and you also know about what happened last week. So tell us about that.
Well, Uncle Russ, the 2 weeks that I saw the Ticats play is a stark contrast of what the season was going so far and what would have been had they closed out ball games early in the season. Back in the Labor Day game against Toronto, but they fought the good fight against Toronto down the stretch. Toronto looked too strong, and Brendan Banks took over the game literally in his first Labor Day game as a visiting opponent. As an arch rival, and it could be times a sloppy game, but starting quarterback I think is Jamie Newman.
Yes.
And it was a messy second half by Hamilton in that game. And fast forward to the game against Winnipeg last week, Hamilton looked a lot more crispy, a lot more comfortable from the offense and defense. The offense led by Dane Evans, who was making his very first start at quarterback in about a month. He has played up until that point against Winnipeg rather average, if not below average, of his standards that we usually seen from years past. But Dane Evans, with all the mental health situation going on with him right now, put on a clinic, 5 touchdowns, is a career high in a single game in his professional football career. And also the offensive line looked very, very good, a lot better than the last several games. And the defense looked looked a little bit better than they were back in the last few games, especially in Labor Day, where they couldn't hold down Toronto any more longer with the sloppy tackling and stuff. So, like I said, Hamilton in those last two games is a stark contrast difference of what was going and what should have been this season for Hamilton, and
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to play up against Montreal. It's in a very critical game tonight.
What I was really impressed with was not only was it a 5-touchdown performance by Dane Evans against Winnipeg, who I don't believe that Winnipeg has given up that many points since 2015. So that was really impressive. And the fact also that they didn't turn the ball over, which has been the big problem with Hamilton this year, particularly in the passing game. And I found that it was a total team effort. Really, really good drives, ball possession. There was a 14 play drive at one point in the second half, and that really set the stage for the victory. So I was really impressed with that. If Hamilton plays like that, then they will have a really good opportunity tonight against the Alouettes here in Montreal. And in fact, throughout the remainder of the season, where they have a chance to get a second place position in the East. So I think that was really important.
The one other note, Uncle, I say, Hamilton, they gotta win out. They just cannot afford to have like a losing streak and play like they had early in the season up until the Winnipeg game last week. They got to win the table and take on all comers and go up on top to get the last. What is more likely going to be the two teams only coming out of the East in the playoffs.
Yeah, because I know that Toronto is in a good position at 7-5 to win the East. But I think that again, if there's momentum and Hamilton can surpass Montreal, then that's going to be a big opportunity for them to save the season, because up to now, as we've talked about, there's been a lot of inconsistent play and a lot of frustration, I think, particularly amongst fans with the offensive play. But I think we can both agree that looks really good. Tonight we have Montreal with Trevor Harris at quarterback, playing Hamilton at home. And that will be a major game to determine who will make the playoffs, apart from Toronto, in the East Division, and indeed who will host the semifinal game. If there is a crossover, in fact, it would be Saskatchewan at this point. But Hamilton has an opportunity to catch up to Saskatchewan if the current situation with Saskatchewan's quarterback play, Cody Fajardo, of course, playing hurt, and the recent win by Edmonton against Saskatchewan, maybe setting a tone. Saskatchewan's going to have to rebound after that loss. So we'll see what happens with that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a good week of football, I think.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on then to the NFL. there's a few things that I want to touch upon and hear from you about. First of all, after 2 weeks, I think it's safe to say that the Buffalo Bills have established themselves amongst the real contenders in the AFC and, in fact, in the entire NFL with 2 huge wins. The latest one, of course, being against the Titans on Monday night, 41-7. And I'd like to hear from you, Michael, about your thoughts on the Bills and some of the teams and games that stick out in your mind.
Well, first off, the Bills are absolutely the alpha males of the NFL right now. Their defense is second to none, if not the best in the league right now. They just come at all comers. I should say, taking all comers, and they succeeded with near flawlessness. The front seven with Von Miller anchoring the defense has been outstanding. Tremaine Evans last game was outstanding against the Titans. Matt Milano with the pick 6. And the secondary is holding his own despite the fact they have lost Tre'Davious Wright for the next few games. They're starting the season in the 4-game IR, I think, and they just announced earlier this afternoon at the day of this very recording that Micah Hyde is out for the upcoming game against the Dolphins. And Josh Allen is, without a doubt, Josh Allen is a beast. Yeah. He is going to be the number one, or I should say the dark horse to win not just the favorite, but more like the dark horse than anything else to win the NFL MVP. Even though we're 1/8 into the season, the way that the Bills have been playing, it has been remarkable. Best I ever seen, because I've been a fan of the Bills since the Doug Flutie era. Yeah. And it is quite remarkable how the Bills are going through right now. And the teams that I've seen has impressed me is more to do is Detroit Lions with the running game. Right. They're looking much, much, much better. They're not the same old Lions. If anybody watched the Hard Knocks series, the Lions were featured at this year's training camp thing. And Coach Dan Campbell, also known as Coach MCDC, has really adapted the culture of what Detroit's all about. And the players have responded. They fought the good fight against the Philadelphia Eagles on the opener, despite the sluggish start. And they just put Washington Commanders, formerly known as the Redskins, / football team, to literally down to the ground, despite the fact they gave up about 10 late fourth quarter points. Yeah. But at the end of the day, their defense looks solid. Jared Goff played much better, and DeAndre Swift and Williams, I can't remember the first name, Jamal Williams, I believe.
Yes,
they're the new number one two punch for running back in the NFL. I can say that again, the same level as Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in Cleveland.
It's early, but from what I've seen, I think that they've really changed just the entire culture of the team. I mean, I remember last year the talk about Dan Campbell's press conference where he said that the team was going to have an identity where they were going to bite the kneecaps off of opponents. and things like that. The physicality of the team is on display. For Jared Goff to be effective, they have to have a good play action game, because I don't think he's a quarterback that can simply drop back 40 times and win a game on his own. So the running game adds a big dimension to their ability to control the ball and to just close out games, because that's always been a problem with Detroit. Matt Stafford put huge numbers up over the years, but they had a notorious time trying to close games because they couldn't run the ball late in the game. Mm-hmm. And I think what you're saying is absolutely true.
And to add a notes to about Buffalo, I just remembered off my head that the equipment right now after the 2 games has been an on and off issue for the last few years. Literally ever since LaShawn McCoy has left the team, is the running game. Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, and can't remember the first name.
Cook.
Cook, yeah. I know the last name, but I just trying to remember the first name, because it's Delvin's brother from Minnesota. So their running game has got to be a lot better. They have a potential of being one of the top 5, not the top 10 in the NFL and the running back duels. And in order to keep Josh Allen fresh, you cannot have Josh Allen run 50, 60 yards per game. You just got to have a much more balanced running attack. And the offensive line has been, I think, in most cases so far, has been really, really good. And for Detroit, the same goes for their offensive line. They finally got pieces with Penei Sewell, a right tackle, instead of like going like Bruce Matthews, if you remember him.
Yep.
When he goes guard, tackle, and like back forward last year with Penei Sewell, but they finally insert him to his natural position, right tackle. And the line itself has been really, really good. And it's to be interesting to see how Detroit is going to be in the rest of the NFC. Or I should say how they're going to feel up against the major competition.
I mean, look, the Packers rebounded last game against the Bears after a really bad start in the first week. And one of the main storylines that I've been hearing about, in various podcasts and shows that I follow, is this whole idea that with the loss of Devontae Adams, that Aaron Rodgers is having to, adjust to having younger receivers, replacing Adams in particular. Basically the most experienced guy that they have right now is Randall Cobb on their roster. And, it's going to be a struggle for the Packers to try to reach the heights of their offensive production in the last few years. So this is an opportunity for Detroit. I think that the Eagles showed that the Vikings have issues, particularly in their secondary, I think. And Kirk Cousins is not is not going to be the kind of guy that they can rely on to pull games out of the fire. He is a quarterback who is much maligned, I think, across the league for not being able to improvise very well. Which at the top tier, you have to have quarterbacks that can make plays when the play breaks down. And Cousins, I think, has the reputation of being a systems quarterback. So
Yeah,
Detroit has an opening.
yeah, that the opportunity is there. And one thing about Aaron Rodgers, like you said, they don't have a whole lot of receivers. I think this is going to be a more of a what most quarterbacks would have is a good year, like a 3,500, 4,000 passing yards and 20 touchdowns. But for Aaron Rodgers, we're all accustomed to see 30, 40 touchdowns at one at certain seasons of uh, last decade or so. It's going to be interesting to see how the Green Bay Packers are going to adjust in the coming weeks ahead, especially when they face very good teams in the NFC, which is relatively not as strong as it once was.
Right. Like if you look at Patrick Mahomes, I mean, people were wildly speculating about the Chiefs after they lost Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins in the offseason. But the fact is that, Mahomes has had to adjust. They've brought in new receivers to fill in the void that Tyreek Hill's, departure made in their roster. But, you look at what Mahomes is capable of doing. They're 2-0. They're certainly up there with the Bills. Full disclosure, I'm a Raider fan. The flag that you see to my left is a Las Vegas Raider flag, although it's blurred. So, I give credit where credit is due, and certainly Patrick Mahomes is, right up there again with Josh Allen as a threat for the MVP at the moment. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a very exciting race. And one thing I think we should at least touch on is the performance of the Dolphins against the Ravens last week. They were down, I believe it was 20 points in the fourth quarter. And they came back and won that game. And Tua set, it was tied a team record with 6 touchdown passes. The record also being held by Dan Marino and Bob Greasy. Mm-hmm. So he just exploded. And that sets up the Bills-Dolphins game on Sunday for the division lead. That's going to be a great game. So very early, we have a lot of good storylines. Another thing I wanted to mention was that the Giants are 2-0. They're playing the Cowboys on Monday night. And Saquon Barkley has been tremendous for them in the first 2 games. This is the best that he's played since his high drafting a number of years ago.
This is his renaissance. This is his renaissance season.
Yes, and I mean that it gives gives the Giants a lot of hope after a terrible campaign last year, which led to the firing of Joe Judge. And Brian Daboll, of course, was the offensive coordinator under Sean McDermott in Buffalo last few seasons, and he's now the head coach in New York. And I think he's given them a lot of confidence. So that's going to be an interesting storyline as well, because that division, the Eagles are 2, I believe, 2-0 as well. They're shaping up to be a big race, and of course the Cowboys have to recover after the injury to Dak recently. That's going to sideline him for at least a few weeks. Mm-hmm. So it's a really good start to the season, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Cooper Rush last week against the Bengals, the way that he commanded the team down to the last drive of the game was pretty good. And he is he's a reliable QB, albeit he doesn't have the qualities of being a franchise QB, but he will be serviceable and can give you some heroics down wherever team he's playing for. Cooper Rush in this instance against the Bengals, he did just that. Like
Yep.
last year against I was going to say Winnipeg, but Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah. Well,
Vikings.
you know, same geographic region.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Dallas have some really bad quarterback play from backups over the years. And it's hard for me to remember in recent years a better performance than we saw from Cooper Rush. And so, I mean, Dallas has to hang in there until Dak gets back. But this Monday night game is crucial for both the Giants and the Cowboys. So I'm looking forward to it.
Mm.
Any other thoughts?
I just can't believe what the Cleveland Browns did to comp off a late, comfortable two touchdown lead against one of the lowliest franchises in all of pro football, if not in this very continent. The way Joe Flacco played was they got pretty damn lucky.
Yep.
And
well, I saw a clip where they were showing the next gen stats about the chances of a victory by the Jets, and it was like at 20% at one point. Like it was minuscule. And I think, in fact, it was even worse than that. But when the Jets got their touchdown to make it a one-score game, it was still like on only a 20% chance of pulling it out. And of course, the Browns gave up the onside kick, and the Jets recovered, and they won the game, as you pointed out. Of course, the Browns won last night against the Steelers. They basically ran the ball down the Steelers' throats, but that's the kind of thing where the Browns have an opportunity to at least stay afloat until Deshaun Watson gets back, and they can't lose to teams like the Jets with their backup Joe Flacco. But Flacco played off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
So let's stop there. We'll invite people to continue watching our channel. If you liked what you saw, there's a subscription link. Please hit that, and we'll have future episodes covering a number of sports, but particularly football. Thanks again, Michael.
No worries, Uncle Wes. Thank you for having me.
So until next time, thanks again.